Hi and welcome to the second part of this drone video. And in this part I will go over the modeling process from the sketches from the sketches from the previous video. I will basically show most of it. I just had one problem with the last bit. The screen recording was somehow corrupted. It always crashed my movie softwares like Premiere and iMovie, and I don't know why, so I couldn't include that one, which it's not too important anyway. It is mostly how I set up the renders. So I created a little like wall and railing for the hooks to go on. So it's not crazy important, but the main part of me modeling that small thing, that's in there. So starting out obviously with deleting everything in Blender. It's really important. And then I started putting in the reference images and put them on transparent in the image tab. And I also put in like a cube with the size spec that I wanted. So that's like, I think it's like roughly 15 centimeters tall, that thing. And so I basically scaled the cube to that size and then scaled the image to it. And I have this bigger sketchboard here, so I can always reference it back and go and find the different things. I put in a circle, and I often forget to choose how many vertices I want. So then I would go in and use checker deselect. So it deselects every second vertex, and then you can dissolve that. In this phase, I just quickly block in the shape using subdivision surface, and then for the top, I basically just used a UV sphere, which I then connected to the other bit, and that's it. And then I put it to place, scale it a little bit, using scaling towards the active element, which is on the dot key. You can have like a menu. From the UV sphere, I deleted the top bit and basically filled them in with F and inset them with I to make like a smoother transition. And then I played around with it. I used different matte caps just to get the reflections right. And I noticed that it's really like too straight. So everything in real has like most things in real life have some curvature to it. So that's what I'm doing now. I'm gonna add in some edge loops so I can bump it out a little bit, like to make it slightly curved, so it's not too straight. And that's in order for the radiuses not to look broken. And it's just me fiddling around, trying to make a nice curvature. Here, just selecting one edge loop to see if there's any problem. And yeah, you'll see me in the other video messing around with that. And that's the good thing about using the shrink wrap modifier. So using that main mesh with like a high subdivision count and shrinking a different mesh on top of that for the final surface, because then you can always go back to the main mesh and update it a little bit, and then it will update in the final mesh surface as well. I basically go with the sketch here, even though you don't see me, like I don't look at it too much. I have it like in my head because I just like sketched it the day before, and I'm just gonna build basically what I had because I'm pretty happy with that. Here I'm trying to make like a transition from like the spherical, like the circle, to like the square, because I wanted to have like the bottom bit of a more square feeling to it and like a more square section. So that's what I'm doing here. Again, using scaling towards active element, which I really love. It's like super useful in terms of scaling and moving around. Here now I'm setting up the shrink wrap modifier. And now I'm cutting basically that duplicated mesh that I'm shrinking onto, the one that I'm shrinking onto the main mesh. I cut it into the main sections to then work them separately and add some fillets to it or connect the rotor blades and all of that. I also put like already materials, different kind of quick materials, just to like visualize it and get a view of what I'm working with. With the shrink wrap modifier, I work with vertex groups, so having everything in a vertex group, and then whatever I don't want to be shrink wrapped, I just take out of that vertex group. It's quite quick. There's a more elaborate way to do that, but I'd use a really simple one for this one. Just like basically extruding an edge loop out, removing it from the vertex group, scaling it in, and then playing around with like the sizing and so on. Here I'm already blocking in the rotor blade, and I'm just winging it here. I'm just like, I've seen a few airplane wings in my life, so I'm just like, yeah, whatever. It's gonna look right. You're not gonna see it too much, and because they're gonna be spinning, it's gonna be fine. So yeah, just trying to close them up. Now I want to like put in the inner bit a little bit and add some sharper creases to the thing. Again, using active element scaling. These rotor blades might not be aerodynamically sound, but they look right. Again, here using the shrink wrap, but in a different way, to shrink wrap images on top of it to some graphics. So like in this case, some eyes for the little robot. And here I'm already like connecting the rotor blades to that first top rotor section, and I basically cut in a shape into that main hole and then face them up and trying to keep it all quartz. And then obviously that rotor blade and the faces I added, they are removed from the vertex group, so they don't get shrink wrapped into the main body, which is still being shrink wrapped on. And yeah, it's quite quick and useful. I really like that technique because the reflections, most of the reflections, gonna be looking good all the time, because you use that main base shape, which you're careful with the edge loop placement there, but in the second one, in the one you're shrinking on top, you can be a little bit more careless, because you're using the reflection from the main base, which is really useful. So yeah, you see I've done the rotor blade. I've basically done the same thing for the one beneath, so I didn't show that. And here you can see me already blocking out some hanger shapes that would go with that drone. The first idea was to just basically copy the one I did in the sketch, which then led me to different ones. But this was the first idea I did, and I wanted to have it like a rectangular profile section in some way. So I didn't want to have it. I wanted to be rectangular and not round. So yeah, I like that one. but I went a different way later with the final piece. But it could work with a rectangular one as well. Here I'm adding those spheres in terms of like, I thought they were like some sensors that the drone can communicate with, so the drone would know where the hanger, basically the outermost point, are, and wouldn't like fly against stuff. And that's what they are. So yeah, that was kind of the first block in with the hanger, and now I tried to do a different one. So here I used curves to create the shape, and that's why like I moved to from the rectangular section to like a round one with the curves basically. Here I did another one based on that sketch, but with curves. And in doing that one, I noticed like a little quirky detail that like the small circle, the hanger part, plus that hook where you can put on bags or something, in some way creates like a little person shape, which you'll see in a bit. And from that person shape, I came another idea, which I then developed a little further, which became like the Rocketman idea. At this point, I wanted to like make them look like they were like welded together. So I cut out some pieces and I merged them together, like just like bridge edge loop command, and then I did a little bit of sculpting, but just simple to make it look like there's some connection and there's some welding and maybe some mistakes. And so I purposely like didn't make it like smooth and clean, because I wanted to have like some dot welding kind of thing, aesthetic. And here you can see like that little person shape, like the top head, and then I did a little sketching and tried to actually make it more obvious and explore the idea further. And then I came with that little sketch, which I quite like, in terms of like a thumbnail sketch. And I basically just drew that with curves, and it was quite quick and easy. I think the sketch itself was a little bit too narrow in terms of like the hanger and the wings of the Rocketman. So I just in the curves in Blender I just made it a little longer, so it looks a little bit more realistic, like a hanger. And similar as before, I wanted to have this kind of welded together look. So again, just playing around a little bit with the shape, making it more cleaning it up a little bit. here I tried to like how I can actually make that work best, and I decided that I move it into the back behind like the legs, and that's it. And then the leg part would serve as the where you can hang like a coat or even like a bag. And here I'm doing like the sculpting again of trying to make the best, like make it like look like a dot kind of welded situation there. Did a remesh, but that didn't look good, so I went back to just smoothing it out and adding a little bit of material so it looks like welded. Here now I create a little quick bag that I want to hang in there, so it basically highlights the function of the legs in terms of the bag hanging, whereas like the rest is you can hang a shirt, a coat, or whatever. So I use like quick and dirty modeling, and then add a solidify modifier to it, and that's it. Here in the texture I used again the magic texture because I think in a previous video I talked about it. It kind of looks like some weaving pattern, and because it's not going to be like a main feature, it's not going to be so important in the future. Obviously I want to even like make these kind of things better, but you gotta choose your battles. What are the things you want to focus on, and what are things that are secondary in your image? And it's about the hanger, it's about like the drone, so it's not about like the bag being perfect. But obviously I understand the better you can get that, then the whole thing would look better. Here I'm just like adding a few textures to like the knob, and to the wall I added like a image texture, and to this one I'm just using like noise texture to create some kind of bumpy surface. I remember that little illustration I did, like a little icon for a different presentation, and I thought that would actually fit perfectly into the front of the knob, that little rocket. And that's basically my final setup for that image. For the little project within the project. And then I combined the two together. Here again you can see me fiddling with the curvature of that main shape by manipulating the base shape, which I'm shrink wrapping on. Here I've added lights to highlight the shape a little better. And you can see now the drone together with the Rocketman. There's a few bits that were part in the other video which I couldn't import into my movie software. So there's like parts where I cleaned up the Rocketman a little bit more, like the drone. And here you can see me now model a different version of it. Like the first one was quite simple, like just pretty analog, like a hook and that's it. Whereas this one has like more like sensors on the outside of the hanger that communicates with the drone. It's like a magnetic kind of has like a magnetic connection point with the drone and the hanger. So that's a little bit more high tech and expensive in a way. Whereas the other one is simple, a hook and a hanger basically. So yeah, just adding a few materials, mostly using noise texture for everything, just to give it some kind of take away that like really fake 3D look. And playing around with noise texture is actually quite useful. Here I'm modeling a hook piece for that lower part of the hanger, so you can also like hang in some coats and bags, which I kind of liked this idea, so I did it in all of them. Using bridge edge loop and then playing them around with them to make the continuation and the thing, like the curvatures look better. But bridge edge loop is really useful. And at that connection point between like the side bars and the vertical bar, I thought I'd create some kind of hinge where you can where they could move up and down in terms of safe space saving. But I also wanted to have some peace there, so I modeled quickly. So used mirror in all directions, and used a knife tool to cut in some shapes, and then pretty standard modeling practices there. Using edge loops and cutting and knife tool and mirroring it all, and that's basically it. And then I added some texture materials to the thing and kind of started setting it up, like the scene. The final scene is a little more complicated, but I used in this scene right now. That's what I used for the final thing. I just added some walls and changed the size of the bar a little bit. And that's it. That's it for that drone project basically. So seen the sketches, seen me come up with the idea, different ideas from the coat hangers, from a very simple kind of analog way with just a hook to this more complicated version where the magnetic systems and sensors to communicate with the drone. And the materials are simple as well. Some noise texture, metallic shader. The light is a sun plus some extra area lights to highlight the shape of the drone a little better. Animated the drone blades to spin, so there's actually coming a motion blur out of the render straight away, but then I touched it up in Photoshop a little bit better as well. But I wanted to try that to actually see how I can render out motion blur, so that was quite easy. Just keyframed the main section, a few rotations, and then basically rendered one of the middle frames out where the motion blur would happen. So yeah, that's it for that video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you enjoyed the whole project. And if you want, please leave a comment behind, and follow me on my Instagram, which is in the description, where I will post different things and sketches and renderings and images. So yeah, thank you. Bye.